Welcome to Spiritual Badass TV, Debi Stickeler.
Ah, so nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on. I'm really excited to talk to you because I know that your life has not always been a bed of roses. You've been through some stuff, and of course, everyone goes through stuff, but you help other people just by sharing it. And interested in hearing about relationship challenges from the past and what you learned about yourself and self love and anything else you want to share.
I've had a lot of challenges. I have had a lot of health problems in my life, and they've been pretty serious. I was pretty asthmatic as a kid, and that came about again as an adult. And I also had a lot of seizures. And that actually was a great turning point for me. I always thought I didn't belong on this planet, kind of like even with the asthma, I felt like I was trying to get off. And not so much consciously then, but when I look back at it, and then having seizures takes you to another place. They were actually amazing because I would go to this place and know I was home, and that's how it would feel. And then I'd come out of it and I wasn't home anymore. So there was a lot of challenges, but it always made me feel very positive. I always knew that something good was going to come out of everything. I've always had that from the time I was very young. So, with this feeling of maybe not belonging, I also always knew that I would learn from everything. There was a gift in everything, and to always be positive about everything. That I think I've always been like. So, that's been how I've been able to persevere through all the challenges that have come up. So, my biggest challenge, probably after all these kind of things of life finally looking like it was all going to be fabulous, was I found out a lot of things about my marriage. My entire relationship was kind of an illusion. I don't want to go into the whole story about it, but there was a lot of hoodwinking and a lot of betrayal. And even though, because of who I was, I could see from a higher place the wounds of my spouse and tried to hold that, he couldn't. He was very wounded. He was very shame based. And so it became emotionally abusive, actually. And so again, it tore me down to another level of, um, oh my God, here I am again. I thought things were finally going well, and it just brought me back down to. I actually was watching TV, and the Twin Towers were falling in New York, and I thought that's my life. So I knew then that I was going to have to rebuild.
What's interesting is the bigger picture, right? Because when we're going through all this yucky stuff, it feels like a huge burden. But what's the big picture of our lives? We're here to love each other, right, and help each other out. And so, having gone through all this stuff yourself, you're now able to help other people. I mean, you have been all along the way, but it just builds your repertoire, your toolbox, right? So, having that difficult marriage divorce situation, and now you're helping couples, right?
Yes, I started out doing individuals. I got my degree in sociology and psychology and actually worked with runaway kids at one point. Then I went back and got a paralegal certificate and worked with a lawyer for a while with kind of underprivileged families. And then I became a bartender. And so it kind of mixed all that together, and that was very fun and festive.
Mixed it, literally. I'm mixologist.
Yeah. And I learned a lot from that. And I just love people. I love being around people. I find people so fascinating and so interesting. And everything that's happened to me has made me less and less judgmental and have more and more compassion and understand that every single one of us has wounds. We react from those wounds. And so that's just the bottom line. When we understand that, we don't have all this self-hating and self-loathing and all this kind of thing, then we can be a little more positive, constructive, take responsibility, and that kind of thing. So after I got my master's degree, I decided I was going to go back to kind of the counseling, but do it in a more life coaching type way. And that's a big life coaching is huge. Like people have different levels of what it means. For me, it was just kind of getting people in the door, because I knew once I was with anybody, it didn't matter what their story was or what their situation was, I could help them, support them in finding their own natural wisdom, which is what my whole business is based on. Like being able to tap into your natural wisdom, which we all have, and which has all been wounded, pulled away from us, or whatever, for all these things that have gone on in our lives. So through that, I started to organically, couples started to call me. And some of it came from working with one client that wanted me to see their husband or see the spouse. And I absolutely love it. It is amazing. It's amazing to watch people and how wounded they are, and they don't see it. But once they do, there's an ease that comes about, and doors just keep opening for them. And I've just watched couples like that are sitting really far apart on the couch get closer and closer together, or laugh like they haven't laughed in a year. Like they'll just start cracking up over something. I also am very pretty good at this point to see who should stay together and who shouldn't. There's a lot of people that just shouldn't be together, and that's not a bad or good. That's not a judgment. That's just reality. And again, our society kind of pushes us that, there's something wrong with you if you can't make it work. Sometimes it's just not supposed to be. And that's healthier in my world for each individual, and if they have children, because children should be in a happy, healthy environment, even if they have to go back and forth to two homes. My daughter had to do that. And even though it was challenging, it was definitely better for her. So, so yeah, this is really fun. It's really exciting. And I also learn a lot. And I have to walk the walk or walk the talk or whatever the expression is. Like I share things that come to me. A lot of it, would you say it's channeled? I would say we all have that ability. I would say a lot of things just come to me in a session. So where that comes from, I don't always know. Sometimes it's from things I've learned, but mostly it just kind of, I get out of my own way and let the wisdom come through. And we all have that. So that's a lot of my sharing, is to help people tap into that, to know that we all have, I hold a place, but they're actually doing the work.
Beautiful. Yeah, you hold a safe space, it feels like. I think of you, from what I can gather of what you're doing, I think of you as a sort of transcendent Jewish mother. Because classically, right, the Jewish mother is like guilt slinger, extraordinaire. And you're doing the opposite. You're saying, no, guilt is damaging. Let go of that. Bring in the love and the compassion.
I know it so well because it's true. It's a real, guilt is huge, and it's huge in this cult, my culture, the Jewish culture, but in our society too. I mean, it's a really, I believe we live in a very shame-based society. We have so many more abilities than we know. We all have psychic abilities. We all have great intuitions. We all have this wisdom of what's best for us. We're just not taught it, and we're not, it's never nurtured because we're actually pulled away from it. Like, you have to do really well, you have to get straight A's, you have to have a great job, you have to make a lot of money, and you kind of depart from this place that if you actually nurtured and were with it, you would still make money, and you would still be doing what you're loving, you still would be helping the society, but from an authentic place. But for some reason, that powerful place, I feel like, has been taken away. It's starting to come back. It's bursting. It's like, I think it's starting to burst open wide now. People are starting to say, something's not right here. I shouldn't be feeling this way. I should be enjoying waking up in the morning. I should be loving what I do. Money should just be the thing that comes because of what I do. I love that kind of thing. And we see that more and more, that when people do what they really, really love, they do grow abundance, and they're happy. And not every day's perfect. Like I said, some days you just have to do a Dexter marathon. But
Yeah, it does seem like there's a kind of a mass awakening, and it's beautiful to see people reconnecting with their own guidance, and that's kind of what Spiritual Badass TV is about. Because I'm interviewing all sorts of people from all walks of life all around the world, and I'm not necessarily interested in interviewing these gurus, because everyone's their own guru, right? Everybody has something to share for other people as well. We're all teachers and students for each other. So it's power to the people. It's an Aquarian dream. It's the Aquarian age, and
it's true, though. And the biggest thing in it that I don't want to leave out, that's part of my sharing, is taking responsibility. That's the most powerful thing we can do. And that's a lot of what brings people shame and are afraid to, the fear in that. And what people that don't do that so much don't realize is that's really the powerful place. That's when it breaks open, no matter what happens. Like, for example, with what happened in my marriage, there was a point that I sat on the couch literally and said, if I keep blaming him, I will never get well, that I have to start taking responsibility for my life from this day on. I cannot keep making it his responsibility. It's not working. It's not going to change. Things aren't changing. And it was one of the most powerful moments I've had. And I've had it in the past with my health. You know, I had brain surgery, and that was really intense. And there was a lot that I had to go through with that. But I had to get to a point where I wasn't a victim of it. I really was, even from the very beginning, I had seizures and everything. I was very conscious of the fact that I will not be a victim of this situation. So as a result, I had a lot of seizures. I had a lot of negative things happen, but I bartended on Pier 39 in San Francisco. I had a lot of friends. Went to a lot of parties. Sometimes I was in another zone. Sometimes I was in the emergency room. And I just tried to always find something festive. I used to talk to the doctors. I never would be a victim of it. And it was a very powerful way that once I did have the surgery that I was able to heal, because I never let it identify me. And so that, taking that responsibility for what was happening, really is what I think I awakened to a lot in my with my ex, that I had to start not blaming him anymore. And that's the gift. Same thing with changing jobs, things seem to not having clients or whatever the challenges have been in my past. Again, it's taking responsibility. Okay, so then what do you do to move forward? What can you do to make, even just to make your day happier is your responsibility.
Yeah, and sometimes responsibility can be a tough pill to swallow, obviously, depends on where you're at. So, presumably you have a way of delivering this kind of tough love to people in a way that feels loving, that they can relax and trust and open up, that they don't feel threatened by. You have a special way about you, a language or an energy about you that allows them to feel, oh, okay, you're right. It is like a mothering, nurturing energy, I feel.
Yeah, it's true actually. I never thought about it that way till you said it, but it's kind of like tough love when you're raising a kid. Like with my daughter, who's fabulous. She's 21 and the greatest person on the planet. But Ashlyn, but she like there were times you really have to say no. And that's the other thing I learned really way back. Like I remember one time being in a Marshalls or Ross or something, and she wanted a book, and 20 minutes I stood there with her and would not buy it because we didn't need it. And it was tough. It was calm voice, put it back. No, we're not buying a book today, et cetera, for a long time. And finally, frustrated and stamping her feet in tears, she put the book back. And I turned around, and the woman behind me was in tears. And she said, I wish I could have done that with my kid. I would have bought the book. And I started to bawl. Because all that energy for 20 minutes of holding it together. But I had to do that for her because it was my responsibility as her mom to teach her that this is what we do. And so it isn't always easy to take responsibility, especially for ourselves, but it is worth it. She never did that again. She never asked for another book unless I said, "Do you want to buy one?" She never had to fit in a store again. I mean, it's just, it's that, it's simple, it's energy, it takes a lot of energy, but it's also respect and, that kind of thing.
And patience on your part to allow someone to sit there and unfold and unpack what they're hearing, right?
But it's very rewarding. It can be a little bit, it's energizing, but it can also at the end of the day be like, whew, but it's worth it. It's the greatest whew in the world.
Learning greater self love, developing compassion for yourself for all these struggles you've been through, it pours out onto everyone else. There's this give and take between self love and loving others, right? And some people say, well, we have to love ourselves first before we can fully love each other. But I think it's sort of a go back and forth process, right?
I think if you have something like, for me, it was my daughter. There's nobody I've ever loved more and probably ever will. And so I will do anything for her. And I had a great therapist when I was going through the divorce that said to me, I would sit there with my shoulders down and, my head down. And she would say, well, what would you tell Ashlyn? And I would sit up and I'd say, well, I tell Ashlyn, blah, 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 blah. And so I laughed. And so I learned, instead of judging myself, I would play the Ashlyn card. So whatever it takes, I share that a lot in my coaching. When somebody just can't seem to get that they deserve it, tell them to think about somebody they know does and do it for them in a weird way. And then you start to get it, because it feels really good to love yourself and take care of yourself.
Right on. And when I mentor people, sometimes I say, well, what would your ideal self say? What is your ideal self all about? How would she handle this? And then they go, oh, okay. And they know right away what that would be. So it's just a matter of like connecting to that. Like if you don't have children to think about nurturing, but nurturing yourself from another part of yourself is another way of getting at it. And doing a character study of your ideal self and then being the best impersonator you can be.
Right, right. It's true. It's a nice little trick, because I think in general, most people do think of others first. I think it's a real teaching in this part of why we're here to really learn the self-love. I give a lot of kudos to people that have it. I have one friend that she really takes care of herself. And I just am very impressed by it. And she one time said, I think she said, do you think I'm selfish? And I said, well, that word selfish has such a negative connotation. So I didn't say yes, but that's not a bad word. I just said to her, I love being around you, because it's really nice to witness somebody that really takes care of themselves. You're not hurting anybody by doing it. You're just asking for what you need and what you want. And it's very impressive to watch. But again, it's rare. Most people, you watch all over, people give in for other people all the time. It's a fine line, but the self-love part really we need a lot more of that in this world. So that's part of what I hold a space for people to really see, even when they do things that don't seem like the nicest thing or any, to show them that it's from a wound, it's not from their authentic self. So they can separate that a little bit, so they can start to open that little space for more love for themselves.
Yeah, they can have compassion on themselves for being wounded and acting out of the wound because basically we're all overcoming false limiting beliefs about ourselves.
Exactly. And it is amazing that once we do that, even little ways, it's those little things, how the doors open or how things show up. When you are in that place, you find $1 on the ground, or you bump into somebody, or the phone rings, you know exactly who it is. Like the magic starts to happen. When you're in a place that you just don't know where to go, just look for the magic. And it's all over, it's all around. Like you'll see, like I said, examples. You'll find money, you'll see somebody, you'll be looking for a book and somewhere you find it. Like it's those little things that keep us going, that say, oh, it's true, I'm connected to something that's working.
It's a vibrational trail of popcorn, right? If we're in the vibration of magic will find us or synchronicities, and it's all going to work out if we allow it to.
Well, I also always have this idea that someday I'm going to look back and say, okay, like I learned that, or oh, I needed that. Like I always know that through something. I was really sick 2 years ago, it was for about a year and a half, and nobody could really figure out what was wrong. And because I'd already had all these health problems, I was like, okay, enough. Like we've been through the major body parts already. And so but I kept saying, one day, even if, like one day, this will all make sense. And that's what kept me going through it all, because it was so hard. And I just thought, and I usually use the word challenging. I love the word challenging more than hard. That was hard. I woke up every day in pain, and it was just so intense. But I went to bed every night knowing, almost laughing at times, like you're gonna find out, you're gonna find out. And I think I had to get to another level of non-judgment. I really believe a lot of it had to do with that, because it just didn't have to do with health necessarily, but even in the health, people go through some pretty traumatic things. And even though I had been through my own previously, I don't think I had been at the level that I needed to be for myself and for others. And there's other gifts that came out. But again, there's so many. I went to another level of being humble. I went to another level of just acceptance. I mean, it was very powerful at the end.
These things that seem bad, if we don't judge them as bad, we just say, okay, I'm having an experience. Okay, I'm having a seizure. You're just so zen about it. That's why I love it. You're hilarious. You just have a lot of humor in your outlook on life. Okay, this happened. And then you can move on if you don't resist it, if you just accept it. Okay, I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why this is a good thing, but I'm just going to accept it and laugh about it.
Right. And through it all, have fun. I mean, it's not going to be always perfect, but like even like when I was having the seizures and stuff, I had this friend at work, and I was bartending, and I would make him the wrong drink, and he would say, "Did you have another seizure?" And we would crack up at work. And like he just had to make light of it, and after I had surgery, I had my head, thank God, I had long hair then too, really long hair. And they only had to shave like this much of my hair. So I was able to put like a schmata on my head afterwards to cover it up while it grew in. But a friend of mine brought me hairdo dolls, like paper dolls, and you change their hairdos while I'm sitting with this thing on my head like a week or two after I had surgery. And that was my gift to me. And I just thought, well, that was brilliant. Like, what a fun gift to bring me. So many people were afraid of it. People didn't want to approach it. And the people that approached it with me and joked with me about it were the people that brought me the most ease. Like, it was the first seizure I had. My brother brought me tongue depressors. That was what he was giving me as a gift because I just had a seizure. And they say you shouldn't use that, but that's the big thing. You hold the person's tongue down. And my parents wouldn't let him give it to me. And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. So that's kind of where I resonate from always. It's like, if I have a seizure, you can bring me a cut. I'm not going to have any more seizures. But if you know what I'm saying, like, I had my hair shaved, bring me some wigs. I don't care, like that kind of, It makes things just better. Not everybody can handle. I don't know. I think everybody can handle it. I think if we each were more honest with each other about what they were going through. Like one friend came in the hospital after I had surgery and he said to me, "Oh my God, you look horrible." And again, it was a gift because I felt horrible. So so I think I think it's starting to happen more and more in society. We're starting to be a little more, I mean, you have to weigh the odds. Not everybody wants to hear it, but I think it's okay to not be so scared, like not to be in fear. And that's part of the acceptance of what's going on.
Wow. You are so inspiring. Yeah, there's all these obstacles on the game board, right? The Earth game. And I mean, if we just have more of a sporting attitude, it's so much funner because they're never going to end. We always think, okay, I'm done. I'm there. I overcame X, Y, and Z. No, there's always more. And after we leave our physical bodies and go non physical, there's still going to be more. We're constantly expanding, right? Expansion is the way of the universe. So none of these things are bad per se. That's just a human idea, a label. So if we let go of all that schlumbach, and just say, well, there is no bad, there is no good, there just is. How can I have more fun with this game?
I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't have a great day at some point. I have plenty of many days in a row. And when I do have challenges, I find all these like festive things to do to try to at least get my place to a place of being even, like neutral, rather than down and depressed and that kind of thing.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And how can people get a hold of you if they're interested in a little coaching or maybe for couples assistance with you?
My website is debilifecoach.com, DebiLifeCoach.com. And I'm open to talking to people. I had a woman the other day that called me and she was looking for a session. She wasn't sure, but she was on her way to court. And I talked to her for 15 minutes because she was going to divorce court. And in that 15 minutes, she had a lot to go to court with. So it's like you can call me for all kinds of things. Like it definitely helped her. She was very unaware of certain things, but because of my experience with that, I was able to give her really good, strong tools in just 15 minutes that made a big difference for her.
It packs a punch. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on Spiritual Badass TV.
Thank you, Debbie Ann.